Hello and welcome back to Breakaway with Dawn and Friends. Today I have Miss Claudia again. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Don. Thank you for having me today. It's such a pleasure, as always.
Yes, thank you. Today I asked you back because I feel I have a hot topic, which is blood thicker than water?
Ooh. This is
And
gonna,
with your background,
yes.
I feel we are equipped to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I will speak from only my experience, so these will always be my opinions and experiences.
Mhm.
And then you can speak from the professional aspect, of course.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, thank you for having for coming on today.
Of course.
So, I want to have this conversation because, in general, I do feel for me, blood is not thicker than water.
Okay.
And that's from my experiences as starting from childhood up until even now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel people, because of their connections to these people, whether they're family or like family friends for many, many, many years, they keep these toxic relationships because they feel they have to, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
That's my mom, that's my brother, my sister, my cousin, my friend of 20 years, or whatever it is. I feel people feel that they have to keep that relationship because of who they are or their,
Mm-hmm.
how they're tied together. And I don't agree with that. Um, so I would like to shed some light on this. And ultimately, I
Mm-hmm.
want people just to learn it's okay to create boundaries, ultimately, is what I want out of this.
Right.
It doesn't matter who they are. So that's kind of
Mhm.
like where I want to go with this conversation.
Yeah. I like that, Don. I think this is a great topic to have. And again, just shed light, right? Because a lot of times you're right. A lot of times, right, in the practice, in the work that I do, I find myself having conversations all the time about people feeling obligated at
Mhm.
times, right, to have this close connection with their one of their parents, right, who isn't necessarily hasn't been emotionally available to them throughout their
Yeah.
life, right? And there's so much difficulty around that and making peace with it or making
Mhm.
amends with that and not
Mhm.
and understanding that, like you said, setting a boundary, right, a
Mhm.
healthy boundary and
Yes.
around that, and not feeling that I do have to continue to have this quote unquote toxic relationship with this person because they are, for example, my parent, my brother, my
Mhm.
sister, my
Mhm.
friend of 20 years, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I feel family feels entitled. They have this entitlement. Well, that's my sister, or my niece. I don't know, whatever the the connection is. And
Right.
then friends that, well, we've been friends for 20 years. They take that for granted, right? So I think it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
elevate your standards,
Right.
right? Be
Mm-hmm.
aware, be aware, reflect on your values and your standards that you're setting for your life, and then, take inventory.
Mhm. Right. And you know what? That's great because you essentially are being or trying to connect with yourself and where you're at, right? Which is important. And typically, a lot of times we focus on, okay, how do I protect this relationship so that I can continue to be liked or continue to be loved or continue to be
Mm,
in this circle of whatever connection that I have? And you have to ask yourself, am I really happy though? If I
mhm.
continue to engage in this relationship or this connection that no longer serves its purpose, then
Yes,
is that healthy for me? Right. So I know it,
right.
it sounds a little bit, maybe a difficult thing to grasp, in that you're trying to identify, like putting yourself first, right? That's not a
Mhm.
selfish act. In
No.
fact, that is something that we all should do. Is your connection starts within yourself first, right?
Yes.
Before you have other healthy connections with others.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think people hear this all the time. and it gets understated, like, and you know, connecting with yourself
Hmm.
and, you know, having you feel better about yourself only makes you a better daughter, mother,
Hmm.
wife, friend, sister. And I think that people don't realize that. So, like, when you're with those family members, it can be toxic and they're not bringing the best out of you, right? So, I think that, and they tolerate it because it is their family. But I'm sorry, blood is not thicker than water for me. Like, you
Hmm.
know, I like to call certain friends of mine my selective family members because I've selected them as my close unit. And to me, it doesn't matter that we're not blood. And I cherish them as if they were my sister, my mom, my brother, because they have been there for me, supported me, see me for me, take the good and the bad, all of those great things, but ultimately they're there for me. And they don't have that like entitled
Hmm. Right. Or
attitude.
there's certain expectations, right?
Yes,
That
there you go. Yeah.
because you come with the title of being my daughter or the title of being my, friend of 20 years, therefore the expectation is this, right?
Right.
Is that you be there for me regardless of what we've been through that maybe hasn't been the best relationship. So it's okay, right? It's okay to set boundaries around that and say, I choose to no longer put you first or put this unhealthy relationship first, right?
Yes. So how would you like, let's say like immediate family. So there's mom, a dad, or brother, or sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, and since that, you're licensed with marriage and family, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you must deal with this a lot.
Right.
But for those of us that don't have the luxury of therapy, like
Mm-hmm.
if someone came in, let's say a mother and daughter, because I feel that's you see that a lot. That's very common, right? Oh, it doesn't matter. But anyways, let's say mom and daughter.
Okay.
And the mom, like, oh goodness, is just always tearing that child down. At least
Mm-hmm.
that's how the child feels. I don't want to say that, if the child feels that the mom is just always negative, always finding something to, nitpick, and they never really have good moments together.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's her mom. She's not going to cut her out of her life, but
Yeah.
can you suggest how she can, have peace in setting boundaries, and what type of boundaries can she set with a mother?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I would definitely start by trying to gauge more insight on the daughter and mother relationship, right? Is coming from a more curious standpoint and helping the daughter perhaps gauge, right, where the mom is coming from. So maybe a little bit of history on mom's upbringing and figuring out like why
Mm,
mom comes across as very controlling or the need to take oversight of her daughter's life for whatever reason that may be.
mm,
And when you come from that approach of curiosity, it helps you establish empathy towards that person, right? So the daughter, in some way, displays some kind of empathy towards the parent. And what I mean by that is not necessarily meaning that you're gonna, I don't know, bow
accept.
down to moms or sit
Mhm,
exactly or
mhm,
accept. Thank you.
mhm,
Accept the mom for the way they are, but more so like, okay, I could see that my mom has her own abandonment issues, or my mom has struggled with
mhm,
depression or whatever it is that she may be
mhm,
experiencing
mhm.
to help the daughter gain more insight. And I think one of the useful conversations always comes from that is teaching my client, in that case the daughter, is helping the daughter utilize her voice, right, through form of expression, and
Yes,
indicating and telling mom exactly what feelings comes up when mom decides to be overbearing or too controlling or too intrusive or whatever the case may be, and kind of allow the client to have a sense of autonomy and have her own voice, right, to
right.
share and tell mom, this is my experience and I don't necessarily like that. I love you for who you for raising me, for trying to support me. However, the way we continue to carry this relationship is not healthy for me,
Mhm.
and perhaps not for you either, so
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
having those conversations. But it takes some time. A lot of times families come in feeling that a one-time conversation is going to provide a solution always, and
Right.
it requires a lot of work.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's hard too because obviously I think people that come to you most of the time
Hmm.
are willing and they're open, right? But most of us don't have that scenario where,
Hmm.
the mom probably that's just the way she was raised, that's her culture, that's the way it is, right?
Hmm.
So I always like to, tell my friends, it's okay. Like you said, express yourself. Let her know. That bothers me when you say that. Like you
Hmm.
do know that, right, mom? Like, or when I'm here with my daughters, do not bring that subject up, or do not speak that way. Or I just feel like you have to communicate. And at the end of the day, you should never have the expectation that you can change someone, right? So this is what I tell when I deal with her, right? Like you can't change her. She is who she is. So
Right.
you got to learn how to navigate around her,
Right.
and then ultimately set your boundaries. It's like, okay, like if this is what it's going to be, then mom, you're cut off, and I'm only going
Right.
to see you once a week or something. Like, I don't know, like you think of your boundaries,
Absolutely.
right? Because if you leave anywhere from someone, friend, whoever, and they drain you, and you you
Sure.
feel depleted, like that's it. That right there should tell you that's not good for you. And
Right.
it's okay. I want to empower you to, again, elevate your standards. I want
Hmm.
you to reevaluate what you value for yourself. Don't worry about what someone else thinks. What do
Right.
you value, right? And if you are a parent, you have to set the standard for your kids to see that, right? So I feel doing that, then
Right.
you can come back with, okay, look, we can continue, but this is what
Hmm.
this is how it's going to be for
Look
me.
like.
Accept it or
Exactly.
not.
These are the adjustments that need to be made if
Mm-hmm,
you wish to
mm-hmm,
continue to have this connection with me,
mm-hmm,
right? Is
mm-hmm.
And I always support my clients in identifying, like, think about it. You can only control yourself and
Yeah.
your own reactions, right?
Mm-hmm,
You have no control over anybody else but you. So
mm-hmm,
if your mom comes off as being overbearing, intrusive, etc., trying to help you raise your children, for example, is you have the right to, like you said, draw those boundaries and remind yourself, this is who my parent is, this is who my mom is, and I genuinely cannot oversee how she reacts to certain things or how she manages herself, and that if you let go of that and don't have that expectation, then I think it's going to make it that much easier and more
easy.
fluid,
Yeah.
right? Hmm.
Yeah, I can only imagine what you deal with with different situations, right? I mean, this has to like come up, that entitlement from family members, right? Like, and them, just expecting certain things because you are related. But I remind people, you can't choose your relatives.
Right. Right. And you know what?
You
And
know?
it's true, Don. It so much comes up that I find myself time and time again having these difficult conversations and telling people it's okay if you're angry at your parent. It's okay if you feel what you feel,
Hmm.
because you have reasons, right? I get it. They're your parent, and a lot of times culturally, at least I'll
Hmm.
speak for my culture is culturally, you have to continue to have this relationship, even if it's not a healthy relationship.
Hmm.
And that is so toxic to
Yep.
your emotional health and we all have experienced it perhaps in some ways or others, but it's important to find ways to disconnect when appropriate. And it's okay to do so without feeling shame and guilt, right?
Right. Yeah, because I feel some might, because I will have to say, cut off, whether they know it or not, family members.
Hmm.
And it's because growth comes with that'll come with growth, in my opinion. Okay. And it's okay to purge in a sense, right? Like, I just feel that there's no value in it. And it's like, okay, you may be a relative to me, but I have nothing to offer you. And you definitely are not bringing any value to my life. So I'm okay if you stay over there and I stay over here. And I have to say, when I was much younger, in my 20s maybe, I was like, when I would hear, because I've always worked in a field where everyone was so much older than me. And I used to think that was
Mhm.
so sad. I'm like, but that's your mom, that's your sister, or whatever. Like, that's sad. I can imagine that. Oh, do I understand now? Life, and experiences. And I just value protecting my peace so much more, right, than anything. Um, yeah. So I just remember thinking that was sad, but I don't anymore. And I want to empower people mostly to just create boundaries. Do you know what I mean? Just,
Yeah, right. Because you want to ultimately formulate healthy relationships, right? If
mhm,
you have healthy relationships, then you will continue to flourish, right? You
right.
want to feed off of people who are gonna give you that space of feeling comfortable and safe of to express yourself, to make great connections,
Hmm,
and they don't
hmm.
they don't have to be blood related connections, right?
No. And, what I wanted to say was it's in the context of, is blood thicker than water? Like, as a kid, like, to me, like, your parents are everything, right? Because they brought you here. They're supposed to be your protector. And I think I have expressed this before, even on this platform, like, having to grow up so fast because my parents were babies having babies, there was many times where I didn't feel as protected or valued or seen or heard, all of those things, right? Like, I'm sure
Right,
I grew up in the era, children are to be seen, not heard.
right.
And ooh, we all know. I use my voice. I need to be heard.
Absolutely.
But I was not like that as a kid, by the way. I was very quiet,
Right.
believe it or not.
Yeah.
But when I grew out of my shell, like, oh no,
Mhm.
I'm here, hear me roar, like,
Right.
and that's because I didn't have that younger. But the reason why I'm saying that is it was hard. You can't imagine what it's like growing up and not feeling protected,
Mhm.
or like not having that confidence
Mhm.
in your paternal um, parent.
Like
Is it,
relationship.
did I say that right? Like, what is it? Like,
Yeah.
in your parents, like, just having that
That
from,
attachment, that secure
yes,
attachment
thank
that,
you.
that we should
Thank
all
you.
have. Right.
Yes. Right.
Right.
So
And
then for me, it's like I took on this persona of, I don't trust anybody.
mm,
I'll figure it out myself. I'll do it myself. Right.
right.
And so I think a lot that was misconstrued with, oh, she thinks she's too good, or, oh,
Mm,
no, I want more. I value more. And not to be funny, but this is how and you're gonna be like, how do you tie that to that? But like, this is how I started speaking to myself in the mirror. And that's something I did on my own at like 16. And when I
yeah.
hear successful people now tell you, like,
Oh,
when you
yes.
go to like workshops
Those
and stuff, they tell
seminars.
you,
Yeah.
right? They tell you, look in the mirror, and I tell, and
Yes. Talk to
since
yourself.
yes, but I'll say, you're so pretty. I love you.
Yes.
Like,
The
I
positive
would say the
affirmations.
things that I needed to hear. I found that within myself, and people don't believe me when I say,
Yeah.
what I think about myself is what I think. I don't expect anyone else to think that. So if I
Right.
think I'm beautiful, that's what I think and feel. I don't expect, and I truly do not expect other people to say, "Oh, you're beautiful, you're pretty, whatever." Like, I truly, because I found it within myself, right?
Hmm.
So um people don't believe me, but I promise you, like,
Yeah.
whether it's positive or negative, what I think of myself is what I think, and I don't
Yeah.
have that expectation. And it's why, because when I was younger, the expectation I had of my parents, I didn't find that in them. So then why would I think anyone else in this world would see
Right.
me, hear me, feel me? You know what I mean? And so,
Yes.
and I think when I tell people that, they misunderstand it. And
Mm,
so I'm here to explain that. And it's like, because if I didn't get that validation or attachment from my parents,
right.
why would anyone else not want to love me, by the way? It's not that, because I know I'm lovable. It's just that I don't expect it because I didn't get it where I should have originally got it from.
Right, right. And that can go either way because then you have people who didn't get that
Mhm,
and continuously seek for approval, who
mhm.
seek for
Yeah.
affirmation from others,
Mhm,
from validation
mhm.
from others. So it's interesting, right, how it worked out for you in that
So,
way.
and I'm gonna be brutally honest, and I don't care who's gonna hear this. The funny part, what you saying that is,
Hmm.
And I'll say this again, and sorry if people hear this multiple times, but there's five of us, right? Girl, boy, girl, boy,
Mhm.
girl. I'm the middle girl.
Mhm.
And I've always said it. The first one is a girl. And I've said it, oh, it's so funny. I remember one time just telling her, she tried to, say something about me and attention wise, right? And I turned and
Okay.
said, yeah, I don't deny I like attention. Yes, I do. I love it when I seek it, when I want it, right? But
Mhm.
I don't need it. And there's a difference. I like it. I don't need it. And I was like, but you need validation, my dear. I
Right.
don't need validation. And my parents were sitting right there from anybody in this room, from anybody in this world but Jesus, like God. Like that is the
Yeah.
only person I seek that from. So let's be
Right.
clear here. I'm okay
Mhm.
with liking and wanting attention. I am proud that I don't need your or their approval validation. So there's a difference. So it's so funny that, like,
Yeah.
yes, I was wired this way or whatever, however you want to think about it.
Mhm.
I seeked it when I called for it and I like it. By the way, I don't like it when someone puts it on me. It's different.
Mhm.
Like I can stand up and command the room if I want, but
Right.
if you put it on me, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But I don't. I truly do not. I truly tell you, I do not care what people say or think.
Right.
I
Right.
truly do not because I have to look in that mirror and be happy with what I see and what I feel. And
Right.
if I'm good, then that's your problem, not mine.
Right. And that's a great perception that you have of yourself. You don't seek for others to validate you. You don't seek
Mm-mm.
for others to notice you because you have found that within yourself.
Yes.
And that is the biggest, I think, missing link that a lot of us experience, right? Up until the point where you realize, like, wait, I need to start valuing me and not
Mhm.
hold others accountable for me and my emotions and my need for validation. No, you start
Yes.
with yourself, right?
Yes. Right. But can I flip that? I do want to say, okay, because I am not sitting here. I am not perfect. I am not better than anybody by any means. I will say, because I have conditioned myself, and I'm going to say condition, right? Since
Mhm.
I've had to find it and condition myself that way,
Right.
one thing I learned that blew my mind because
Mhm.
I've always wondered, how did my childhood experiences shape me? Like meaning like it's baggage. So when and where is that baggage going to show up in life?
Yeah.
And how am I bringing that to my current relationships, whether it's friends, other family members, new people, marital, whatever, right? Even my
Right.
kids. And it's always been something that, again, I always like psychoanalyze myself, and I
Mhm.
used to think there's no way that I've escaped it. Like it
Mhm.
somehow has to show up in my
Mhm.
life, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it's been the biggest fear, if I can tell you.
Sure.
Everyone has different fears, and I can tell you is my biggest fear in life is, whoa, when is it going to hit me? When is it going to
Show up.
rear its head, right? And it's been my biggest fear. And can I tell you, it's great, and I love that I conditioned myself, but I can tell you, in order the how I did that, and I didn't realize this till later in learning, and is when I was younger, in order to survive, like your body, like tell me, not your body, well, your body, but your
Yeah.
mind goes into survival modes, and we protect ourselves differently, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that's a whole nother podcast, I'm sure, right? So for me, I can tell you, for me,
Mhm.
I had to remove the emotions
Mhm.
from the situation, from my childhood, right? So in order for me, like for my brain to get through and accept
Right.
what was happening, what I could not control and change, I
Right.
had to take the emotion out.
Mhm.
What I did not realize is then I became very guarded and
Mhm.
emotionless, right?
Yes.
And so, and on top of that, you guys, I learned later in life through my, guilty pleasure of reality TV
Mhm.
that your emotions are attached to feelings,
Yes.
right? So whether they're good, bad, exciting, scary, whatever, right? All your feelings, they're attached to an emotion.
Yes.
So there's a lot I don't remember, or I
Mhm.
choose not to remember, because remember, to protect myself as that child, I had to remove the emotion out of it,
You had to
right?
block it out.
So, and since
Mhm.
I didn't have an emotion, I don't remember because I removed that emotion. Because
Right.
I mean, when I became a mom, I remember my daughter being 3, and I'm like asking my uncle, like, what don't I like? Why don't I remember things? Like, I don't have memory. Like, why?
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
is it, I mean, I know there's certain things that are bad, but was it worse than that? Because like,
Right.
how do I not have these memories like that everyone else
Mhm.
have? And I realized, oh my God, because I took the emotion out. And so there was
Mhm.
nothing to attach it to remember, right?
Right.
So now I bring that in because it reared its head in
Yeah.
my life last year
Sure.
when I
Mhm.
realized I did not, I was not emotionally showing up for my husband and my kids.
Mhm. Mhm. Sure.
And that was groundbreaking for
Yes.
me because
Yes.
I didn't see it, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
always in this protective mode, go, 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 do, 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 do,
Right.
that I never realized
Mhm.
emotionally I wasn't there. Like,
Right.
because my love language is action, not words. Because why? I
Mhm.
had parents that promised things that they did not fulfill. So I don't want to
Right.
hear what you say you're going to do. I don't want to hear what you feel.
Right.
I
I
want
wanna
to
see you
see it.
do.
Why?
Right.
Right? Because of what I experienced, right? But then
Mhm.
I didn't realize that's all that I was giving is
Right.
the action.
But isn't that interesting? You just said a few minutes ago that your biggest fear is wondering how this is gonna show up.
And I
And
figured
you
it out. Yes,
have,
it reared its head. Can you
right?
believe that?
It peeked his head and said,
It,
"This is how." But and that's all we all have these coping mechanisms, right? This is how you dealt with your circumstances. This is how a lot of people deal with that. Is
mhm,
I will protect myself by not remembering certain situations that I don't want to remember because they're too
mhm,
painful. So I'll
mhm,
remove the emotion, which then doesn't allow, like you said, your
mhm,
memory to remember that. Because why would you want to remember difficult moments? So,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's
So
amazing.
I don't need validation, okay? But can I just say, like, you have to agree that with no degree and no license,
Yes.
the things that I'm able to like really sit back, reflect,
Conceptualize.
evaluate, like
Yeah.
what?
And you know what, though? You have life experience, which
Yes,
is something
yes.
that textbooks cannot
Don't
teach you.
teach. Yeah, yeah.
Life experience is everything, and
Mhm.
that's why you bringing this to the table and you shedding light and doing the work that you're doing, done with being
Life
life
coaching,
coach.
yes.
It's amazing because
And by the yes. Oh, go
yes,
ahead.
this is your calling. This is what you feel most comfortable with. You're thriving in it
Yes.
because you have life experience
And
and you
can
have
I,
to
and
share it with
honestly,
people.
yes. And I've been a life coach longer than what I even realized. And when I was, I got certified, nothing big. It's, there's different levels and different types of certifications and all that. I'm not going to lie to you. I got an online one, did the course, whatever, right? But when I was thinking about it, it's like, and because I just wanted to feel official and I wanted to feel like, okay, look, I put time and effort and I did pay money, whatever, right? Just to validate myself or whatever, right? So, but I'm not going to lie. I'm like, wow, like, I know why I have value because of my experience. I know what I have overcome. But to what you just said, that's what drives me because at the end of the day, I do have life experience.
Mhm.
And I feel this is why I like to think of myself. I am a well rounded individual.
Mhm.
Again,
Mhm.
I think that. I don't expect you.
Right.
um, but that really is what drove me and drives me to be a life coach. And I know I have the tools and I have what it takes to help someone to be in the present, okay?
Right.
To be in the present and to, set those goals and achieve, because sometimes I'll say their life coaching and therapy are different, but I still feel it's a form of therapy, okay? So,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I did want to say that because I am, and I'm enjoying being a life coach. I love it. And I feel like maybe you'll agree with me. This was meant to be is blood thicker than water. But at the end of the day, the reason why I brought this up is because this is what's driving me, right? And
Mhm.
my past experiences and how I've dealt with them and overcome them. And so I don't know if people feel like, wait, the conversation went in a different direction, but I love that. That's the
Right.
point.
And it's come back full circle, Don. At the end of the day, it
Okay.
is your connections. Do you continue to sustain a connection that's not healthy to you? And why do we formulate these connections? This
Yes.
goes back to or derives to your upbringing, the relationships, the people that were around you, who you surrounded yourself, shapes your views. And then fast forward, here you are, a grown, full woman who is full of experiences and resilience, right? Which I
Yes.
like, and I appreciate that you're teaching others about that.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know, that is my goal. So
Mhm.
my breakaway tip would be to raise your standards, evaluate, you know, reflect on your values.
Mhm.
Start with that, you know, because I know what we're saying can be very foreign to some people, you know,
Sure.
but start there. You know what I mean? Like start with raising, you know, stop accepting less people. Like I don't understand. Don't accept less.
Right.
Okay. And I don't go change your whole life. I mean, you got to start somewhere. Just start with a little step. I always say that. Just start with something that just you just cannot tolerate, like that
Yeah.
one little thing, and just, you know, go from there, build on that.
Mhm.
Like it took me 43 years to get here. Do you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's not going to happen overnight. Be patient with yourself and those around you, you know. But the breakaway tip again would be, please go back, evaluate your standards, reflect on your values, and then I'm telling you, you can then start to take inventory, assess, and go from there. And just because someone is genetically has your you share DNA doesn't mean you have to tolerate the toxicity. You don't. And just because you had a friend for 20 years, I'm sorry, that doesn't warrant anything, you know? So I empower you to break away from what no longer serves you, find that
Mhm.
joy and live your best life. That's for you to determine.
Yes. I love that, Dawn. Thank you so
Thank
much for bringing
you.
this awareness to
Thank
this conversation and
you.
this topic.
Yes, and we'll
Thank
have
you for
so much more to come, but I appreciate your insights. And obviously, this is a form of therapy for me. So thank you.
thank you.
Okay, talk to you guys soon.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dawn.
Bye.